What's going on? In this video, I'm gonna build a simple rack that's gonna get all these clamps out of this drawer and up onto the wall. Okay, I saw this design somewhere online a while back, maybe in my Explore tab, I don't know, I couldn't find it back, but I have a basic idea and kind of remember what it was. Essentially, instead of just hanging the clamps like this on a tube, it was slotted and it let the little adjuster slide through it. So I found scraps around here. I didn't want to buy anything for this. So this isn't exactly the same, but essentially this will be mounted to the wall, and then I'm going to cut little pieces of tubing that are going to come off of here, and then we're going to have to slot them. I already drew the entire thing up in Fusion 360 right here. This allowed me to get all my spacing figured out and the lengths and kind of visualize what it was going to look like. I've gotten a lot faster at Fusion, so I've kind of started to enjoy doing this because you can go into the draw function and then quickly knock out some dimensions and print it off and you're good to go. You're not sitting on a notepad trying to figure everything out. So that was kind of nice. So next I need to cut these pieces of tube into 8 inches, which is just over right around 203 millimeters each. And I'm going to cut 5 of those. And then we're going to get them welded on here. I'm actually going to MIG weld this because I have a big MIG welding project coming up. I want to get a little bit of practice in. It's going to be some good practice because this is pretty thin. Both of these pieces are. So we'll see how that goes coming up. These are going to all have about a 5-degree angle. That's what I decided while using Fusion that I wanted to do. So instead of squaring off each end and then cutting another angle, I'm going to just cut all the angles straight. So I put a center line right on top of the tube. And I'm just going to cut the end off so that way they're all the same. If I would have been thinking ahead, I would have drawn my other line for my slot all the way down the tube so they're uniform, but I didn't. So the best thing I've come up with on how to get the line, because these are going to mount just like this, and then I need a slot directly down, but the line I drew is all going to be pointed directly that way. So I really need a line 90 degrees from the line I drew. Best way I can come up with how to do this, since I want it 90 degrees from my existing line, I'm going to put my current line straight up in my vise. Actually, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this here, touching the edge so I know where you are up. Make sure square, and then I'm going to eyeball a line to where it's straight down. And then that'll be my reference line for everybody else. So I'm going to put this in my vise, and again, eyeball this. I mean, how many eyeballs can you do? What's the worst that could happen? Straight up in my vise, and clamp it down. And then mark on the side of my vise where I just made that line. Then take every other piece of tube, put it in here, make sure the existing line is straight up, and mark where that line was. Then to mark this straight line, I'll do it the same way I did this. I'm actually going to get a fatter Sharpie for this. I pretty much just take any big block. I can just use the side of my vise for this too. And I'll put this, lay the Sharpie flat on the table, and I'll rock this now, since I already have a line, till my Sharpie's touching that line. Make a little mark to make sure I'm right. And then just drag it flat across the table, and I have a line. I'm going to mark it so I know which line I'm cutting, and do that to the rest of these. I want to take a second to talk about this video sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Whether or not you want to learn a new skill or expand on one you already have, Skillshare probably has a class for you. For example, maybe you want to get making videos kind of like this one, but you're not sure how to edit them. Well, there's all kinds of great starter classes, like this one right here, for Adobe Premiere Pro, teaching you everything from the basics of how to get started to pro-level editing techniques. Skillshare has tons of classes across illustration, graphic design, photography, video production, and a ton more, all for less than 10 bucks a month. So if you're interested in trying out Skillshare, the first 1,000 people to click the link down in the description will get a free trial of their premium membership so you can start exploring your own creativity. Okay, well, here we go. I got my prototype Kevlar sleeves here I'm trying out. Got my new Defiant Metal MIG gloves. If anybody does order these, especially on Amazon, and there's a message saying order one size up, order one size up, because I'm in the process of shipping them all back to me, where I'm going to change the actual labels and bump up the size, just because they were too small for me, so I think they're too small for everybody else. Like, these are double X's, these are going to be the extra largest, if that makes sense. I just want everyone to be happy. And I also got my Fronius Transsteel 2700 here, and I'm going to make some mediocre MIG welds, which is not the machine, it's me. I think I drew it out to have maybe an inch up here, which I really don't need, because I'm going to weld these tabs on the end. One like this to cap off the tube, and then another one flat, which will be what actually gets a hole drilled through it to attach to the wall. Okay, I need to make sure I put my small slotted tubes up here at the top, because that's going to be for the smaller vice grips. They have a little bit smaller adjustment knob on them. And then the three bigger ones down at the bottom. I'm gonna fire up the Transsteel here. All right, welding steel with 30 thousandths wire. It's got an option to select the gas. It's mostly argon with 15 to 25% CO2, which is what we're at. I have it in centergenic mode, which means, you know, it practically welds for you. I don't really know what to set it at. I'm gonna go at 69, because here goes nothing. I'm gonna start off by putting the end caps on here. Okay, I have both tabs welded on each end. That's how I'm gonna drill a hole and this will hang on the wall. Next, I need to put the posts on. I'm not exactly sure what the best setting is. I'm still in the synergize mode and figuring it out and how it works. So I'm probably gonna be adjusting it throughout this, but I think I'm just gonna do one at a time here and work our way through. Well, I blew that one out just a little bit. That actually made me think that this is a sealed container, because when it blew out, it kind of did like a little expansion. So since you won't even see the back of here, I'm gonna drill a hole in the back, just let the air out. It seemed a little hot because I did blow through. Could have just been my speed. guess I'm just gonna knock the bolts down a little bit. I'm not very good at going all the way around something in one pass. Don't have enough experience with that yet. It's not so bad for the first one. Maybe I should have started at the bottom. You know, so by the time I got to the top, it'd be the best looking one, but whatever, too late. And there we go, a nice little Vise-Grip rack. One thing I was saying earlier is you can make this out of any material you might have laying around, and I was gonna make these out of square tubing that I had, just a little bit wider, actually a little bit narrower than this. But I quickly realized that the Vise-Grip handle sticks up parallel with here, so it would hit if this was too wide. That's why I went with the round tubing. If you have the fatter handled Vise-Grips, you might not run into that as much, but the only thing I have left is to get a can of paint on here and get it up on the wall. I really like this slotted design as opposed to just hanging the Vise-Grips the other way around and just throwing them over a piece of tubing or a hook, because this way they all stay nice and lined together and it looks really nice on the wall. This project really got me excited to start messing around more with my Fronius Trans Steel. The machine performed great. Obviously at some points didn't have the settings quite right, and I'm not very familiar with MIG welding enough, so my gun height was all over the place. But even when I was making all the errors, the welds still turned out pretty good. So I'm really happy with that. If you're new here, I make welding and fabrication videos here on YouTube. I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought about this project down in the comments or something that you might do differently. And I'll see you next time.